I don't care how much carbon dioxide we throw out there, that next ice age is coming. And when it does, life on Earth will change dramatically for man because you can't stop these monster glaciers from coming at you. We're going to wish we had warmed the planet more if we actually could, but we can't. That's the problem. We can't. This is temperatures. Similar time period, yes, 550 million years ago to about today. Now, what you can't see, because this is 0 and you're already at 50 million years right here, is you can't see the little jump at the end. Let's assume we're 0. We're actually right now at 0.6 degrees centigrade above this long-term norm. 0.6, so that'd be right about here. Wait a second. We were 8 degrees above normal there. We were, well, close to 10 degrees centigrade above normal back 250 million years ago. So what is going on? Up, warm, cold, warm, cold, warm, cold. Cycles. It's natural. It's a perfectly natural cycle to go through, ups and downs throughout history. In fact, there are some who have speculated that we've actually had an ice planet at one point. There was times when, and they found samples of things you could only find in icy regions down in the tropics, that ice actually expanded down to the tropics. Not solidly, broken apart, but at times ice was down in the tropical waters of the oceans. We know it's been there. We also know that tropical animals, marine life, have been in the Arctic. We've gone through these cycles. This idea of Arctic ice disappearing. First of all, if it was, it's probably part of the cycle, but it's not. It's actually all coming back. There's all kinds of battles now as to how to measure it. That's the next thing. Well, you got the thickness wrong. You got the coverage wrong. We got satellite pictures. And they're showing us very clearly that there's a bunch of Arctic ice up there. And it grew. 2007 was the minimum. It's coming back. But even if it did disappear, who says that that's not part of a normal cycle? We've seen it before. There have been ice-free times in the Arctic before. Antarctic is setting records for ice. Our biggest fear should be, if Al Gore really wanted to do this right, he should have stuck with what they started in the 1970s with the next ice age coming. Yeah. Stick with that. Even though we're warming, because in reality, that is a threat to life on our planet. If we get cold, we're going to be much like the Vikings in Greenland. I mean, they had settled there during the medieval warm period. The little ice age started around 1250, 1300 AD. Prior to that, the Vikings were in Greenland. Farming. They could do agriculture there. Once the little ice age started, ice covered Greenland. Since then, we have not been able to farm there. To this day, even as the glacier retreats a bit, which many people panic about, no, it's good. It's good news. We're digging up these implements and saying, whoa, there were farmers here. We can tell. They were farming in a place that's covered by a glacier. So we know it's been warmer because we can't farm there now. But they did back then. That's why they discovered, that's why they were kicked out. Okay, same thing with Iceland, same type of thing. Well, these are natural cycles. Here's a little video showing you two plants growing in really high CO2 levels. One actually close to where we are now, one many times higher. Watch what happens to these plants in a little controlled environment. 450 parts per million, we're at 392. This is 450, that's 1270, which I showed you historically is still not that much. This is on YouTube. You can see it anytime you want. I decided to download it. Just imagine crops, how much more they'd have on them if we actually were able to increase CO2 in our atmosphere. It's amazing the difference in these two things. And this is just one type of plant. And they check the root length, they check the harvest, the height, the leaf increase. It's amazing the amount of growth with more CO2. Plants love CO2. More plants means more oxygen too, so we get the benefit of it as well. 143% increase in root weight. We're at day 21 here. How many leaves at harvest? A 38% increase in the number of leaves on the plant at harvest. 38% increase. Beautiful. 1270. We would never notice that breathing it. It wouldn't make a darn bit of difference. Leaf weight at harvest, 9% increase in the weight of the leaves. Everything about that plant did better at 1270 parts per million. Day 42, still looking great. And this guy still, the one on the left is still above where we are. So all kinds of enhancements by having more CO2. We know it's there. They did a little thing on it that's just CO2. So there you go. There's what happens with the better CO2. Just one plant growing for a couple months. That's all. So just imagine that spread over time and over. The idea that CO2 is bad is just horrible. It's not a pollutant. All right, and these are CO2 science. Yeah, CO2 science. You can look that up online if you want to find that. So, carbon dioxide, once again, not a pollutant, although they've declared it as such. It is healthy for plant growth. It has been a lot higher throughout history. And it's worth noting, in fact, I've got some things, I'm going to show you this. I found some really cool stuff for surfers, so I thought I'd just throw that in here. Actually, there's a reason for this, although this made such a great piece of video. But, water vapor. When we talk about greenhouse gases, the main greenhouse gas is water vapor. 95% of the greenhouse gases are water vapor. Now, there's something else to learn about this ocean shot here. These are really cool surfers. This is something I'll probably never get a chance to do. I love it, although not really on a wave that big. These guys are nuts with what they do, but I admire them for that. What they're surfing on here is, of course, the ocean. The oceans, and let me tell you a little bit about climate. The number one driver of our climate is what? Anybody guess? Sun. Absolutely, the sun. Right off the bat, the sun. Number one driver of our climate. That is number two. No, not the surfers. The ocean is the number two driver of our climate. Our planet is 75% water. The Pacific Ocean is huge. How much have we talked? Have you heard people talking about in recent years? Well, there's an El Nino. El Nino means warming of the Pacific Ocean. When there's warming, it means this for most of the world. When there's a La Nina, when there's cooling of the Pacific Ocean, well, that means X for most of the world. When the oceans change temperatures, and the Atlantic goes through this as well, warming and cooling cycles, it means dramatic things. This year, you may have heard about the hurricane forecasts because the Atlantic has been running a lot warmer. That potentially means much bigger and longer lasting, powerful hurricanes. We'll see if it happens. Although it's the eastern Atlantic that's running warmer, not near our coast, which is good news. They may not make it here that strong. But the point is, the water. The earth, the oceans drive our climate more than anything. Well, let me tell you what's going on. The Pacific, see, I got all kinds of notes. I'm never going to get to these things. The Pacific is cooling down. I'm looking at this like, what did I want to talk about here? The Pacific is cooling down. The Pacific goes through what we call PDO, a Pacific Decadal Oscillation. It cools for a number of decades, it warms for a number of decades. Right now it is in a cooling phase. The ocean overall is getting colder. That's a scary thing. It's a giant ocean. It's getting colder. The Atlantic is running warmer. Do you know why the Atlantic is running warmer? Because we had such a cold winter. Sounds strange. But because of our stormy cold winter here and in Europe, I mean, there was all kinds of records set around the northern hemisphere this winter. But the storms were so far south that they pushed the sunshine and high pressure even further south into the tropics. So there was a bunch of sunshine over the central Atlantic that there normally isn't there over the winter. It heated the water. Sun is the only thing that heats the water, by the way. Hot air does not heat water. Only sunshine can do that. Okay? Water gives off heat. It doesn't take in heat. It takes in sun rays. So the sun sitting over that Atlantic is the only reason it warmed up. Once this hurricane season's over, it's going to start cooling down again. If it joins the Pacific, we got some trouble. So that's one of the problems we have. Water vapor is the main greenhouse gas. And there's another one of those things, like climate change, that many have turned into a negative. Greenhouse gas is actually a good thing. Greenhouse gases keep us warm. Without greenhouse gases, this planet would be below freezing. We would not be able to sustain life here. So the greenhouse effect is actually quite a good thing. Let me read a real quick thing. Because how am I doing on time? Ladies? Oh, what is it? Okay, wow, I am running. All right, so I got to finish up here. I can't believe it. I'm rambling on. No, I can believe that. I can believe that. This is what really cap and trade is about. Shutting these guys down and more dependence on foreign government at this point. In fact, as you know, and this is all part of the IPCC, this UN body. They, in their words, have actually said they want a one-world type government. They want, and it sounds scary. Years ago, when I heard people talking about, like, what are you nuts? There's a one-world government thing. No. They actually do want to have the ruling for climate, and now for money. How much are we sending to the International Monetary Fund? These are all things where it's going to be, we're going to rule from one location. And all these folks are involved. It's hard to believe there's a conspiracy like that, but when you look at the players, that's not so hard to believe anymore. It's actually going on. And the IPCC was a part of that, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Under the UN, the whole structure was, let's set up something so that we set the rules under the United Nations, that corrupt organization. And we're going to govern the entire planet as to how you do things with climate. Well, that's maybe fine for some countries, but every one of them now is complaining. China doesn't want to be regulated. They want to grow as much as they can grow. They got all kinds of cheap labor. They're a rapidly expanding economy. They're drilling in the Gulf while we can't. So, and as is Argentina and others.